Hey, aloha to the tribe. This is Jeff Reinebold. I'm here with Magic Mike, and this is 80. How many, Mike?
I keep forgetting myself. I think it's 87, Jeffrey. 87.
87 episodes, and this is a special one. We normally don't come to you this early in the week, but in the playoffs, because everything is so important and everything is magnified, we're going to bring you more than one episode a week through the playoffs and the Super Bowl. And Mike and I are here to kind of chop it up on what was maybe. And I'm telling you, I go back. I have not seen every NFL game that's ever been played, but I go back. This is my first playoff experience, Mike, as a kid. I remember the first Super Bowl. And I'm dead serious.
Really?
I remember sitting in our house on a black and white TV and watching the Packers win the first Super Bowl in LA Coliseum, and they couldn't even sell it out. And it's become what it's become today. Fred Flunk always jumps in early. He's got an aloha for everybody. Fred, good to have you back from the
He's been very quiet, Jeff, over the last week anyway.
from the morning that
very...
you were doing after the Cowboys lost in the Super Wild Card round. Mike, seriously, have you ever seen games like we got this past weekend?
Where do you start here? Like, I mean, I think it's almost unfair to compare the Saturday games to the Sunday games because for me, as a neutral, that the games on Saturday were good enough in their own right. It was a dogfight against the Bengals and the Titans. Obviously, Bengals, moving on there. And the late game with the Packers and the 49ers, yeah, it wasn't a classic game in terms of offense, but that was a classic game in the frozen tundra, and that will be remembered for obvious reasons because it surely now is the end of an era in Wisconsin. And where on earth do I start last night? Like I had 3 hours sleep. I don't know how you've done it because tell me this. Did I wake you up this morning? Did I wake you up whenever I texted you because I felt bad? I was like, hold on, he might still be
Yes.
asleep.
Now I got to tell you that
no.
I get home from the studio at about 4:30 in the morning, right? And you know me, Mike. You and I are buddies, so like I am so wired for a game. It's just like coaching a game, and it takes me about 3 hours before I can even relax enough to go to bed. So I didn't get to bed. It was about 6:45. I think I went into bed, and then you called me. I saw the phone at about 9:15, whatever. But
it was 10:35, Joe. It was
dude,
10:35.
I was not whatever it was. I wasn't picking it up. That's all I know. Hey, why do you jump? Why do you jump over the Rams Bucks game? You didn't pay attention to it even, and you go right to the Chiefs and the Bills. Now that was the best game I think I've ever seen. But how about the Rams jumping out like they jumped out against the Bucks, who are all beat up, and then Tom Terrific does his magic and wills them back into it. There's a lot of stuff we're going to talk about, but I saw tonight that Bruce Arians said that on the last call on Kupp's vertical route that he beat Winfield on, that it was a zero coverage, which it was, but they didn't zero blitz. They only brought 5, and there must have been a communication issue or something. But he said, that was what he was disappointed about, was they didn't actually play the defense that was designed. And so Winfield's out there, and he's not a great cover guy to start with, and he's one-on-one with a Triple Crown receiver. And even though Cooper Kupp only runs 4.6, he's a great route runner, and he knows exactly how to move you and open you. And Stafford thought that, in Stafford's mind, he sees zero coverage, but not zero pressure, so he knows he's got a chance. And even at that, Ndamukong Suh smoked him at the end of the play, and he stood in there and delivered a dime, and that was the ball game, as they say.
Stafford, whenever Kupp caught that ball, was a man possessed. I have never seen anything like it in my life. The way he was running, his face, Jeff. There's a man you don't mess with. Look, I have to sum this up on my own show in an hour, and I don't know how I'm going to do. I'm getting tired even thinking back to last night. I didn't think at the end of that game that could be topped. like, Brady was so close. You heard Neil last night to you get on the train. You weren't forgetting on that train, Jeff, at one point. I did think, and I'm not just saying this, I understand the Bucks came back, but the Rams, if the Rams had lost, it was on them because they should have been away dead and buried. Like the Bucks were dead and buried in that game, and fair play to them. They did come back, but it just wasn't enough in the end. And again, now what happens there?
Well, I
Because
tell you what, let's talk about that game first before we go into Tom Brady's future, because we've watched the Rams now 2 of the last 3 weeks, and they're up 17-0 with a chance to go in and just finish the 49ers, and they turn it over. And then the same thing happened to them yesterday. Akers has 2 critical fumbles, one at the goal line when they're going in to score another touchdown that would have put the game out of reach. He turns it over. And then in the end of the game, when he's trying, when they're trying to run out the clock, one of the things I said to Neil and Baldy and Sean on set was, when you're coaching running backs in 4-minute football, you do not struggle for extra yards, and you never take 2 hands off the football when you're in traffic, because that's what they want. They want to punch and rip at the ball. That's their only way to get back in the game. And, McVay said all the right things about it, that, the kid will learn from it and all that stuff, which he's got to say publicly. But right now, what do you do if you get the 49ers down and you're going to run the ball at the end to finish the game? Do you put Cam Akers back in the game? It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
I can't wait to see what's going to happen on Sunday. And I know we're going to maybe talk about that on your preview show towards the end of the week, Jeff, with some great guests. But that 49ers game and Rams game has got such potential. And you're right, do you trust Akers? Never mind if you're McVay, if you're a fan. The Rams have either learned from the last 2 or 3 weeks, or else they're going to go into SoFi and provide arguably the biggest letdown for their fans in the team's history. Like, they are sitting now, as you said last night, 2 games, Jeff, 2 home games from winning it. Like,
I agree with you. I think that if they don't learn, if they don't get it now, that you got to close games out, that you got to, when you've got somebody on the ground, you got to put your boot on their throat and you got to choke them out. And that's just the way it is, because these guys are all too good. And it, all it takes is boom, boom. And then somebody's right back on you and in the game again. Hey, fans, listen, get your tweets in, get your takes in, get your rants in. If you want us to read it on the show, you got to tell us where you're calling in from or where you're texting from or whatever, because we got to know, where you're from. And you don't have to give us your height and weight, but you got to tell us where you're from and who you're a fan of, too. I think usually we can tell that by the question that we ask, but sometimes it's nice to know.
We've got our first guest here, Jeff, from Our Heads Abroad. I'll bring him in. It's Owen from Our Heads Abroad. Obviously, last night, I mean, wow. Do you know what I mean? Like, where do you even start here? I'll bring him in. I don't think you've been chatting to him before. You've talked to Brad and a few other guys, so I'll bring him in here now.
Owen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
All right, young man. Let me ask you the question. Have you slept yet?
I have, yeah. I managed to get a few hours in. I've only just settled down, though. So it's been a bit of a exciting day for me, just rewatching it about 3 or 4 times. But yeah, I managed to get a couple of hours in.
So tell me, brother, where'd you watch it at last night?
I watched it at home, just downstairs. Yeah. I live in Manchester, so yeah, just a home game.
It was a home game in Manchester. So what did the rest of the family feel when you when you were screaming and yelling?
Oh, it was tough trying to keep my voice down. A lot of running up and down the lounge in the kitchen, trying to contain my excitement and not be too loud.
Biggest takeaway from the game. Biggest takeaway for you guys.
I mean, Patrick Mahomes is never out of games. Is my biggest takeaway from it. It was insane to see what he did, to watch these 2 quarterbacks go up against each other. Because I mean, you've got to give credit to that Bills team, because what a show they put on against the Chiefs. Just a slug it out. Both teams going for it. Both teams wanted to win. But yeah, just you can never count Mahomes out. And here he is back in a home championship game. So yeah, what a game.
So did you get a chance to communicate with any of your Arrowhead brethren today?
Yeah, we were talking last night, and we've been talking throughout the day as well. Just reminiscing and reacting at live as it was happening as well. Yeah, a lot of mixed emotions. It was a bit of a roller coaster last night, but now that the dust settled, yeah, it's just so good watching it back.
All right, now when you guys look forward now, obviously this was a huge hurdle, and much like the old 49er Cowboy games in the 80s and 90s, they were de facto Super Bowls because whoever won that game was going to go win the Super Bowl. You could almost count on it. Do you guys feel, as Chief fans, do you feel like that's where you're at right now, that you guys now are just, you got to go play Cincinnati, finish that, and then go win the thing?
I mean, I think it would be easy for me to come in here and say that, but you can't underestimate these teams in the NFL. I mean, they're in the Final Four for a reason. The Rams are such a strong team. They've had their ups and downs, but I mean, they're here and they can pull out when they need to. And the 49ers have got a great defense, and they know how to get it done offensively as well. With Deebo Samuel and Kyle Shanahan just runs a great system in San Francisco. And Cincinnati, like you said, I mean, we lost to them in week 17. So there's no one that I would say that we'd cakewalk or we'd walk over. It's going to be tough every single week for the final 2 weeks if we make it to the Super Bowl. So yeah, but I like the Chiefs' chances. I think we've overcome the biggest hurdle in the Bills because they are just such a good side. I mean, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen were playing like the top two quarterbacks in the league last night, and Josh Allen came off a great season, and this whole Bills team as well have played so well. So I'd say that the biggest hurdle's out of the way, but I don't think it's job done yet.
Have I got you on?
Oh.
You back?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah,
All
I think
right,
you dropped out for a second there. Yeah,
internet. They had to go grab you, get you back. Hey, let's go through the game.
That's
and
right.
then give me your takes and how'd you feel after that first drive where they come out and they run the ball on you a little bit. Singletary's hot early in the game, and all of a sudden, really the emotional heartbeat of your football team on defense is laying on the turf and has to go to the blue tent, and you see no more Tyrann Mathieu the rest of the night.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough enough to stop this Bills offense when you're at full health, and let alone when, like you said, you're a top three player in the defense, and the heart and soul of this defense for this Chiefs team goes out and leaves the game and doesn't come back as well for the rest of the game. I mean, it was starting the game off on the back foot, but this team was resilient, so it was tough coming back from that. Obviously, on the first drive as well, it was a difficult spot we put ourselves in, but yeah, hopefully Matthew's back next week, and we managed to get the result at the end of the day. So yeah, I'm pleased with that.
It's funny when you're in a game and the game ends up, 46-36, and you go, nobody played a lick of defense, but that's not true. There was some really, really good defense played in that game too, because this is two of the most explosive offenses in the National Football League. And, Patrick throws for 177 yards in the last 2 minutes of the game. And, Allen was unconscious with some throws. I mean, to be able to weather that storm is absolutely incredible to me.
Yeah, I mean, both defenses got stops against Allen and Mahomes. They both managed to get the offense on the field. You'd expect it to be like the Patriots against the Patriots last week, where the Bills just go touchdown, 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 touchdown down the field. But no, both teams managed to get some stops. So yeah, although there wasn't any turnovers in the game, it was still a tough defensive performance from both teams. But everyone knew that it was going to be a high scoring affair with these two offenses. So yeah, but it was good to see the defense put up a fight on both sides of the ball.
Any thought in your mind when they put Tyreek Hill back there to return a punt?
Yeah, I mean, reminiscing from the early Tyreek Hill days as a specialist, it was good to see him back there because he made some stuff happen when he was less so of a number one receiver and more so of that return specialist back in 2016, 2017. More so 2016, but yeah, it was good to see him back there, and you could see the fans as well. You could see the fans' reaction when he was back there as well. They seem to love it as well. You hear Arrowhead light up as soon as they saw him take the field. And I mean, look what he did. It was a great return. I actually remember thinking that I wish Andy Reid didn't take the redo the punt that he returned because of what happened, what Heck did earlier when he downed us on the 1 yard line. I thought this guy's a good punter and he can make kicks. So redoing the punt seemed like the wrong choice there. But I mean, as soon as Tyreek Hill did that, I just shut my mouth.
Dude, it was amazing because the thing about him, and if you've ever been around him, he's really short. Now I say short because you don't say he's small, because he is yoked up, and I mean yoked up. And his short burst quickness and his ability to go from standing to full speed in less than 5 yards. I don't know if I've ever seen a player. Dante Hall was like that a little bit, but Dante wasn't, even though Dante was thick, Dante wasn't as muscular in his upper body and all that as Tyreek Hill is. And Tyreek's explosiveness is just absolutely off the charts. Anytime he gets the ball in his hand is a chance for a huge, huge play.
Yeah, I mean, he's shown it time and time again. He can really make people miss. And as soon as he catches the ball, like you said, and he takes a little step back and he just pauses for a second to try and find a hole or try and find a way around him. And he almost looks a bit like he's returning a kick when he catches a ball, even in the offense. He stops for a second and looks at the defenders and see which way they're going to jump, and then tries to dart the other way. Yeah, I can't remember who said it last night in the commentary, but it's like playing it with him, like tag with him. You just try to avoid you all the time. Yeah, he's a great player. He moves around a lot.
All right. Tell me what was going through your mind. And were you communicating at all with any of the other Arrowheads when Josh Allen scrambles all over the yard, goes to his left, and finds Gabe Davis in the back of the end zone, and it's a 2-point conversion, and there's 13 seconds left, and you got to get a field goal to tie it and go to overtime? What was going through your mind?
I mean, first of all, it was just almost disbelief that the sequence that had just happened actually took place. I mean, he scores once, and then Patrick Mahomes answers right back, and then Josh Allen scores again. Then they get the 2-point conversion, and you're looking at the clock, and it's just thinking, like, at that point, I was almost at, okay, this is game over. Like, well done to the Buffalo Bills. They've earned this. This has been a hard-fought contest, and it was very reminiscent of the Rams Chiefs game back in 2018. Just a high-scoring affair, so much fun, and by the end of it, even though you've lost, you're still like, this has been a ride. So you're just thankful that it was such a good game. And then for what Patrick Mahomes did afterwards is just almost unbelievable. Like I said, I've only just gotten over it later on today. I had to watch it back a couple of times before it truly sunk in what he actually did. But yeah, beforehand, it was full of nerves.
Were you surprised with 13 seconds left that Buffalo would kick for a touchback and give the Chiefs the ball with no time off the clock at the 25-yard line?
Yeah, you'd expect them to try and try a different kick that would waste a bit more clock down, because then we'd only have one play or two at maximum. Yeah, it did seem strange, especially because we had all our timeouts as well. And then to defend the sideline so much in the 13 seconds as well also seems strange, because again we had all our timeouts so we could use the middle of the field. So yeah, it was a weird sequence for the Bills, but I mean it worked for the Chiefs, so I can't complain sitting here now.
You know, in coaching, we call that situational football, and that's some of the things you work on every week. You know, let's say, the head coach will come up with a scenario, you're down by 3, 13 seconds left to go, you got the ball at the 25. Then the offense and defense will go out and compete to see if they can, maintain the victory. But until you do it in a game, it's a completely different deal. And there were some real, bad football plays in those situations this past weekend. The Bucs, I don't know if you heard me talk about this. Bruce Arians in his press conference today said on the ball that Kupp caught at the end, right, where he beat Winfield on a little hesitation post, that not all the guys who were supposed to blitzed. And so they were able to pick it up enough that Stafford could get the throw off. And then the same thing in your game with the Bills. The Bills, the last 2 plays looked like they didn't know how to line up against Kansas City, because on the first one they didn't cover anybody in the that little bunch route that they had, and they just threw a screen out there to Tyreek. And then the next one they go trips the other way, and nobody's even close to Kelsey. And they get it down to the 30 and kick the thing, and the rest is history. But it's amazing, man. It's like your heart goes in your throat. I really believe this, because I've coached in that stadium, and I've listened to that crowd, and I recognize what that crowd was like. You could have measured the sound in there with a seismograph. I mean, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a great atmosphere at Arrowhead. It always is, especially for playoff games. It's why Mahomes and the Chiefs like getting home field advantage so much, because it does the world of difference. Obviously, he hasn't played away from home in the playoffs outside the Super Bowl. So, yeah, it does make all the difference. And even a couple of plays when I think the Bills got a full start, and you can just hear the noise in the stadium, and it's entirely down to the atmosphere and down to Chiefs Kingdom doing their part. So, yeah, it's always good playing at home. Unfortunately, I've never been to Arrowhead, which is definitely on the bucket list of mine. I need to get out there.
Hey, brother, you better go. And I don't care if it's a preseason game. It's amazing. I was talking to Willie Pyle, who played safety for me and was with Coach Vermeil on those teams, and Dante. And it's so unique because, the team stays at a hotel downtown the night before the game, right? And then you get a police escort to the stadium in the bus. And as you get about a mile from Arrowhead, you begin to smell the barbecues. And as you pull in, there's a huge parking lot outside the stadium, right? The Chiefs offices, when I was there, weren't located in the stadium. Some of the offices were, but they had their own administrative offices and then their practice facility. And, you'd smell that barbecue about a mile away. And then you'd round the corner into that parking lot, and it was nothing but just a sea of red. And I mean a sea of red. And people are drinking and partying, and the music's going like crazy. And it's like the college football environment in the National Football League. I've been to a lot of NFL games and stadiums and all, and pregame crowds and all that. I don't know if I've ever been to one that's as off the rocker as those guys are.
Yeah, and I mean, when you've got a barbecue as good as Kansas City, I mean, can you blame them for getting the barbecues out? Of course, they're going to be smoking. I need to try some Kansas City barbecue as well. I need to get out there, because I've heard the tailgating is just as legendary as the actual stadium itself. So,
you know what? It's funny you mention that, because we had training camp actually up in Wisconsin. The University of Wisconsin, River Falls. They called it the Cheese League. There were like 5 teams: the Saints, the Packers, the Vikings, the Chiefs, and I can't remember who else it was. We were all within probably 100 miles of each other, maybe even less than that, 70 miles. And so you were probably a 6-hour car ride away from Kansas City. And one day we're coming off the practice field, and this big, we call them tractor trailer truck. You guys call them lorries, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. Pulls up in front of the players. The players stayed in the dorm, in front of the players' dorm, and it was I think it's Dunn's. I think it was the barbecue company from Kansas City. They had drove this gigantic truck up, loaded with barbecue, and proceeded to just pull it out on the grass outside the players, where the players stayed. And they gave them all Kansas City barbecue one night, and it was the best barbecue I think I've ever tasted. So you got to get that done too. Hey, what's going on now with Arrowheads Abroad now, going into this championship game? You guys got anything going? You got a watch party happening? Anything going?
I mean, we're going to have the podcast coming out for the actual game itself. I'm not too sure if we're doing a watch party for it. I think it would just be the usual tweeting out stuff during the game, interacting with the community out there and over here as well. But yeah, no, we'll be doing some podcasts in the build up to the championship game. And then we'll have a lot of fun on Twitter on game day.
Okay, give me a score prediction. You know, the Bengals are playing with house money. There's no pressure on them. All the pressure's on the Chiefs. All the expectations on the Chiefs. What do you think the score is going to be?
I mean, it's tough to call because it all depends on Matthew coming back. I mean, like you said, it's the heart and soul of the defense. You saw those deep plays from Josh Allen into our secondary, and I mean, if Matthew was there, it might have been a different story. So, yeah, if he comes back, I think we've got a good chance of making it like a 7-point game. I mean, Chiefs are gonna score points, and Joe Burrow's going to get it done. So it'll be another high-scoring affair. I'm going to say 34-28 Chiefs.
All right, 34-28. You heard it right here from Owen, and he's a member of Arrowheads Abroad. Mike, come on out here. There he is. How about our young guy handling himself like that? It's like he does this for a living.
I'm not gonna lie, my heart did sink whenever Jeff's Wi-Fi went off. I was like, "What's going on here?" And like, I was about to come in, and he came back. And the reason the screen went black is because I texted him saying our next guest is here. So sorry, Jeff. And yeah, of course, Owen. I'm a Broncos fan, but look, congrats last night. Hell of a game. That'll go down in the history books for a very, very long time. And Jeff's spot on. The Bengals have not had to lose, so it's going to be a hell of a game on Sunday. And I'm just going to sit here now and say I think the Chiefs are going to go to LA.
Owen, thank you. Appreciate you coming on the show. And again, next time I'm in Manchester, I'm going to look you up.
Sounds good. Can't wait.
All right, man.
Cheers, all the best, mate. Enjoy next week.
Being on the show.
Thanks very much.
All right. Hey, did a great job. Huh?
Arrowheads Abroad. All those guys have been on before. Appreciate it. I think at KC_Chiefs UK. I think I've got that wrong. If you type in Arrowheads Abroad. Yeah. We've got 49er Faithful UK on the line. Do you want to bring in Lee? Talk about the 49ers?
All right, Lee, come on in here and let's talk a little ball.
We'll bring Lee on now.
How you doing there, buddy? Uh-oh. Mike, we got to get his audio straightened out.
Hey, Lee, you might be on mute, mate. Now, if it's still not working, if you want to come in and out, I'll try it again. That usually works sometimes. But you've been on before, so we can get this working, I'm sure. Don't worry. Hopefully it'll work. This is the joys of live internet.
Live radio. That said live shows.
Just check your Lee, if you just want to refresh your browser and then come back in again, that might reset it. I'm not sure. If you just refresh it and then it'll take you out and then again, hopefully. And I will say a very, very quick Irish prayer here, Jeff. Man, we've loads. I was going to actually do it at the end. Like literally, if you want to chat to Lee first, because there's so many people giving their picks for the Super Bowl. So many people saying the Chiefs. Let's see if this works with Lee. Lee, can you hear us?
You back?
No. Right, I'll tell you what it is, Lee. If you want to come on your mobile phone, even instead, the same link, that might be one that works for the audio. I'm not sure why that is, but if you want to refresh it again and try out that might be a good backup. And usually it works, Jeff. Sorry, Lee, about this. I'm not sure what it is. I'll see what happens. Okay.
I'll bet Lee is a lot like that 49er defense. They started slow, but he'll take over the game by the time we get him back with his audio.
He'll be here in 2 minutes. It's grand. Jeff, very, very quickly, while we're waiting on Lee to come in, how did you find last night? Were you not exhausted at like 3 o'clock, or were you fine? Or?
No, I tell you what, I should really not say this, I suppose, but it's a pretty nice job to do to get to do what you do anyway, even if you weren't doing it for a job. Because I would have stayed awake if I was over here just hanging out in London. I would have stayed awake to watch both those games. Oh, 49er fan lost for words.
Well, I think hopefully Lee gets in his mobile phone.
But in terms of, I got a feeling that our man Lee is going to have a lot to say when he gets on the show. Because
hopefully, so.
In general, I think the 49er fans are some of the most talkative NFL fans we get a chance to interact with.
We've got a few questions, so just while we're waiting on Lee to come in here, I'll ask you one anyway and see if it comes in. Simon from the West Midlands is saying, who gets the Dolphins head coach role next year, in your opinion? Dolphins fan from Midlands, UK.
that one is going to really be an interesting one. They've interviewed Mike McDaniel, who I think is a great young coach. I don't know if it's ready for that right now. I think probably that'll be an offensive guy, and I think they'll want an offensive guy who can work with Tua and bring the best out of Tua. Brian Daboll comes to mind. Now, he's apparently got a second interview with the Giants. Nathaniel Hackett might have an opportunity to go down there and interview for that thing. I just really think that for the Dolphins, the more important than anything else is they get somebody who's a relational guy who can get along with people and get along in the building, and all of the things that we had heard were challenges for Brian Flores. Brian Flores is a brilliant football coach, but especially with your young quarterback, and Tua's not a soft kid mentally, but I think it was really difficult for him this year, and to be able to do what he did, bring a team back from 1-7 to win 8 games is really a phenomenal effort by a young kid with all the stuff that was swirling around him. So I'm gonna watch that Dolphin one really closely.
Literally, the second you stop speaking there, Lee comes in. Let's see if this works. Lee, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Thank God.
Fantastic.
You're back. He is back.
How are you doing, Jeff?
I'm good. You still have a voice after screaming at the TV when Jimmy G was throwing the ball all over the place?
I've still got a voice. I don't know about a wife. I kind of walked the whole street up. It was an interesting game. I think the weather was a big leveler for both offenses. I think you could see from Jimmy's throws, he had quite a few wobbly throws, and I think the weather did impact them. The ball's going to be a lot harder. It was obviously damp. It was wet, a bit slippery, and you could see even Aaron Rodgers was struggling at times. So it was an interesting game to watch from an offensive point of view.
Well, I tell you what, Lee, I didn't have to have any more verification or validation that the weather was really a factor than when Kittle clanked that one off his shoulder pad that would have been a routine catch for him in any other game. I mean, he's got great hands, and to see him, let that ball get through him, and it is true when the ball is cold, and they try and keep those balls warm on the sideline and all that, but when the ball is cold, it gets slicker than it is when it's not cold. And I don't care what anybody says, when you're out there, and I think Ayuk dropped one. You're out there, and in those situations, it's tough to play offensive football. But they played enough good offensive football to win the game. I thought their adjustments at halftime were good. What's your biggest takeaway, Lee, from that win against the Packers?
We can play a hard game of football when we need to play a hard game of football. And that was definitely a hard game of football. On defense, our defense stood up. They were countered. They were absolutely excellent. And the saying is, great players turn up in great games. And Fred Warner was absolutely outstanding. The fumble he caused, great. He's such a good leader. Back in his rookie season, I think a lot of the fans were a bit worried that he was made a captain straight away. Because of his inexperience. But obviously, the coaching staff saw a lot more than what the fans saw in his rookie year. And he's proved it. He's an absolute excellent leader on the field. Defense wins championships. And our defense is getting better week on week on week. It's absolutely fantastic to watch. You can be mistaken for looking at our offense on early Sunday morning, as it was in the UK, and basically think, the 49ers are not very good on offense. Again, it was the weather. We held Aaron Rodgers to 10 points, and he didn't have a thrown touchdown either.
Well, I'll tell you, say what it is. They can say whatever they want to say, but the two best defenses in the tournament left will be playing in SoFi this coming weekend.
Yeah.
They asked me about it today, and my reaction, Lee, was what the Rams have got to prove to me is that their chin's hard enough to play 60 minutes with the 49ers, right? Because the 49ers are going to get after your ass. I mean, they play physical on both sides of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, so do the Rams. The Rams on defense are a really physical, good team. I think it's going to be a really close game. And I think you can forget all about history. You can forget the 6 games we've won back to back, because that is history. There's going to be a new page of history written on Sunday night. And whether or not it's going to be the Rams coming away happy or 49er fans, who knows? It's going to be that close. And I think being a 49ers fan, what we can't do is gift them a 17-point lead like we did in week 18, because that's just suicide. We need to actually start the game from the time the ball's kicked and actually play 60 minutes ourselves, because the 49ers tend to have a good half and a bad half. And it's very rare in the last few seasons we've seen a Kyle Shanahan team put together 60 solid minutes of football. So you're saying the Rams need to put in 60 minutes. I think so do the 49ers, because there's 2 very, very good teams who can take advantage.
You made a real good point, because early in the game, I thought the Packers might run them right out of there. I mean, they didn't. 10 plays right down and score to start the game. They got pushed around a little bit on defense. They couldn't get a first down. And, the Packers were playing with a lot of energy, and it didn't look like the 49ers were ready to match that. But as the game wore on, they kind of found themselves a little bit. Now, are you up from up north, or are you from Scotland?
I'm from up north, the northeast of England.
All right, because I heard that accent, and I said that's not a London accent. So
nope,
how did you get to be a 49er faithful guy?
Oh God! So back in the 80s, so I'm from Sunderland, up in the northeast, and the local soccer team, football team I follow is Sunderland, playing red and white. And back in the early 80s, there was a program on our local channel called Tyne Tees, and they were showing the Dallas Cowboys against the 49ers. And to be honest, I think it was purely because the program Dallas was quite popular in the UK at the time. And I saw this team in red and white, which obviously I was attracted to, and they were wearing gold helmets. And at the time, I thought that's just really cool. And that's the team I picked, the 49ers, and I've rode with them ever since. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see the first 2 Super Bowl wins because they weren't on live in the UK. I got to see Super Bowl 23 was the first 49ers Super Bowl I managed to see live. Got to stay up past me bedtime for that one. So I've been through some really good years, and I've been through some really poor years, the likes of Dennis Erickson when he took over as head coach, just after Steve Mariucci had left, early 2000s. So I've seen some good teams. I've seen some teams that I'd rather not remember.
Hey, now, did you guys get together at all as faithful for the game this past weekend, or did you talk to each other on the phone, or were you texting back and forth as the game was going on?
So we had a game day thread going in our Facebook group. Without game being in the middle of the night, it was pointless getting a watch party together. So we were all online on Facebook, and it went quite well. We had just under 2,500 comments on the game day thread during the game. And awesome. I think we all went through the same experience together, and it helps.
That's awesome. I'll tell you what do you got planned for this week? Are you going to do the same thing again? Or are you going to have a watch party, or what are you going to do?
So this week's going to be exactly the same, because we're the late game again. So it's going to be in the middle of the night by the time our game's finished. So we'll have another game day thread again up on Facebook. We'll all enjoy it that way. But we do actually have a Super Bowl meetup already arranged. So every year we'll have a Super Bowl meetup up in Newcastle. With any luck, the 49ers are actually going to be in the Super Bowl this time. So that'll make the meetup even better.
How did you feel when you saw on TV big old Trent Williams limping off, and then it being in a walking cast after the game?
Yeah, so that was a huge concern. It was a huge concern seeing him limping off. I fully expected to see him in a cast coming out after the game as a precautionary measure. I believe the MRI has come back and it's clear. So that's good. It looks as though he probably is going to be able to go this weekend. But it was a heart-in-the-mouth moment, to be fair.
Well, I'll tell you somebody else that laid it all on the field. And I mean to tell you, this guy he might be my favorite football player right now, because I believe there's a way you play the game to respect the game. And he plays a position that typically is for divas. And this guy, he ain't no diva. He is a straight warrior. Deebo Samuel, to me, wow. Can you find me a better football player in the National Football League than Deebo Samuel. The things he can do, I mean, I just, it's like I would have him as a kickoff returner all the time, because every time he touches the ball, and as strong as he is running in traffic. As a matter of fact, I called that shot the other day in the studio because we were breaking at halftime, and Neil said, well, what would you do? I said, the first thing I'd do is I put Deebo Samuel back and let him return the kickoff to start the second half. And he ran it back 45 yards, and, Here we go. But, that guy is a special guy. And I'm going to tell you something. Monday morning, right? Because you got to fly all the way back to San Francisco after the game. So that's a long flight to sit there for 5 hours in an airplane and, even a big seat. I'll bet he couldn't barely walk the next day as many hits as he took.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a big lad for a wide receiver. The effort he puts in, game out, is unbelievable. I've got to admit, I mean, I'm like most 49 fans, and we all do worry when he's back there as a kick returner, because you see so many kick returners get injured. But he can do it all. He's a difference maker. Before he started running the ball, he reminded me a lot of Anquan Bolden, a stocky wide receiver who's really good with his hands. When you target him, you're pretty much guaranteed he's going to catch the ball. But then when Kyle Shanahan started using him as a running back, he just went to a completely different level. And it's difficult to legislate for Deebo Samuel. It makes it hard on defenses, and I think that's why we're so successful on offense this season.
Did you see the illustration piece I did where they take Mitchell and they put him at receiver and put Deebo in the middle of the field as a running back?
Yeah.
And what that did to the Cowboys, that play, that design was so good, and the Cowboys had no idea how to counter it. And they take Van Der Esch out of the box. There's an exposed gap. They pulled two linemen to get two more gaps. And all Deebo does is press it and cut it back where he knows Van Der Esch is gone. I mean, that kind of play, though, they're going to need a couple of those plays, I think, in this game, because and I'm not a hater. I'm telling you, I'm not, right? Because I see some good things in the kid, particularly when he throws the ball between the hashes.
Yeah. But
when Jimmy throws the ball outside as a drop back quarterback, he scares me every time he throws it.
Yeah, he scares all of us 49er fans, Jeff. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So with Jimmy's a bit of a conundrum. The way the fans see Jimmy, they don't think he's a good quarterback. But when they say they don't think he's a good quarterback, I think subconsciously they are thinking of good quarterback as being an elite quarterback. And we know he's not an elite quarterback. But you don't get as many wins, or you don't get the win ratio that Jimmy does, being a bad quarterback. A lot of people will turn around and say, well, that's just Shanahan's scheme. He can turn any quarterback into a good quarterback with a win record. But he failed with Mullins. He failed with Bethard. You have to be a good quarterback. Jimmy's just not elite. He's just not the type of quarterback that can make the type of throws that Josh Allen can make, Pat Mahomes can make. And I think a lot of fans expect that from the quarterback. So even though I agree with you, he scares me, especially when he's throwing it out of the flat. I wish he wouldn't, because every time he does that, it looks as though it's going to get intercepted. I think if he sticks to what he does best, and that's pretty much within 10 yards, just in the middle of the field, I think he's gold, because he's a great leader. He is poised, and he can run Kyle Shanahan's offense, which is a highly complex offense.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would agree with that. All right. Now, you are representing thousands and thousands of faithful in the UK and millions of faithful worldwide. So I want from you, representing the faithful, your prediction for the NFC Championship game between your hated rivals, the Rams, and the San Francisco 49ers.
It's going to be a heart attack inducing game. It's going to be incredibly close, and the 49ers are going to come out on top 28-27.
Oh, 28-27. Lee has called his shot for all faithful nation. Lee, thank you very much for coming on the show,
No
man.
problem,
It's been a
Jeff.
blast. All right. I hope to see you someday. And again, keep wearing that red and white proud, whether it's Sunderland or whether it's the 49ers.
Will do, Jeff. Thanks a lot.
You bet, buddy. I appreciate you. All right, Michael, how about that? We're going to have a one-pointer again this week. You better get your heart medicine going there, buddy.
I'm just glad that Lee had a chance to come on the show for about 3 minutes. I was like, oh my God, is he coming on? Is he not coming on? I have to bounce in like 6 minutes. So let's get all these comments in. Yeah, let's.
All right.
Well, hold on. Have you something to announce here yourself? Have you anything to say yourself very quickly here?
Yes, we do. We are coming to the Emerald Isle. We are coming to Ireland the weekend of the Pro Bowl. We are going to do a live show in Ireland. We are going to do a football clinic in Ireland for all the. We're working in conjunction with the Irish Football Federation, American Football Federation, and we are going to put on a informational clinic for any coach anywhere in Ireland or Northern Ireland that wants to come. And the venue's being decided as we speak, but we wanted to get the message out. We're going to have a radio show. We're going to do a clinic, and we're going to have a little fun in the Emerald Isle. I can't wait to get. I haven't been to Dublin or Belfast or any of it in years, probably 5-6 years. So I'm anxious to come back.
It's like a workshop, I guess, for players, for coaches in Ireland, and also as well, I guess, if you're a fan, if you want to come down and listen to Jeff talk some ball, he's going to be there. I don't know what the crack is with selfies and the HSE and stuff, but I'll come back to that there, Jeff, in a wee minute. That'll be put up whenever it's officially online, but that's happening. That is happening.
All right.
I appreciate,
and I appreciate everybody in Ireland that works so hard to make this possible, because it isn't easy in this time of COVID and all the things that are going on. And Mike, you did a great job of ramrodding the thing and working with the Federation to make it happen. You know, it's another opportunity for us to give back to the people that are so good to us.
Season starting over here in about a month as well. I know they're massively excited, Jeff, and thank you for your continued support. Just really quickly, just getting some of the comments in. Rob, who is from the West Midlands, he's a Man City fan and a Green Bay Packers fan. What went wrong with the Packers besides special teams? Negative or conservative? I mean, Jeff, 10 points? 10?
You know,
take the whatever from it, Jeff.
You can't excuse the special team play. It was bad. It was bad. In a lot of ways, it was bad. But here's the reality with the Packers. When they get against elite defenses, right, especially in a game like that, where the weather is a factor, and it was a factor for both teams, but they really were down to one weapon. Devontae Adams is all they had. Robert Tonyan's been hurt. Cobb was played, but he didn't really play. He spot played. And so you've got Valdez-Scantling and you've got Lazard, and those guys aren't good enough to beat you, right? So, you know, you can watch the game and you watch the tape, and all that DeMeco Ryans did is he just doubled Devontae Adams and said, okay, try and beat me with all these other guys. And they weren't good enough. And Aaron Rodgers, you know, everybody's on Aaron Rodgers' ass, but I to me, it's, you know, they gotta get that fixed. If they're going to be an elite team, look at the elite teams. Look at the teams that are left and learn from it. Rams, 3 great players, 3 threats, right? Cincinnati, 3 threats. 49ers, 3 threats. Chiefs, I mean, 6 probably, right? So you got to have weapons. And if you don't have weapons, it's too easy for the defense to take one guy away.
Good time for one more question, Jeff. Loads of comments from Fred Flunk there. Has anyone seen any Packers fans this week? Paul Hope says, loving seeing Lee representing 49er faithful UK on the show. Finally, thanks to everyone for their questions. Loads of people saying the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, but Sporting Rights in the UK says, does Brady retire at the end of the season? Always imagined he would go out in the win. I think Jeffy should have walked away last year.
I think based upon what I saw, right? And I think there's a little bit, I mean, Aaron Rodgers does this too, and so does Russell Wilson. They like the attention. They like the drama. They like the intrigue. They like people asking, you know, are they going to come back? Are they not going to be coming back? I think he's going to come back. I really do. I think Gronk would be probably maybe more of a guy that might walk away from it. But again, it's going to be hard for him also. Aaron Rodgers is going to be interesting. He got a huge salary cap hit, $40-some million. And I think Russell will stay where Russell's at. So your Denver Broncos better draft themselves a quarterback, buddy.
49 minutes into the conversation, we mentioned the Broncos. I mean, the Broncos aren't playing for another 9 months. Jeff, I have to bounce, but it's been great chatting to you and great chatting to everybody tonight. I know you're going to have a jam-packed show Thursday or Friday this week, looking ahead to the AFC NFC Championship games, and obviously on Sky from 7 p.m. on Sunday as well. Really looking forward to it, man. And again, looking forward to that Ireland thing. There's more on that in the next few days, and there's obviously information on that there. One thing we should say, all proceeds go to the game in Ireland as well. So you're a gentleman, Jeff, and I will chat to you on Thursday.
Hey, now before you run, you got to help me on something. So if a fan sent in a question, how do I get that so I can answer it? Because I don't want somebody to ask a question and I don't get an answer.
Is this for Dublin?
No, this is today.
Today. So I've asked everyone to reply to the tweet. So you'll see it in your notifications. So everyone should have replied and stuff, and then you'll see it and you can like it and reply if you want. So a lot of questions to get through, but thanks to everyone for watching, Jeff. You've had a massive crowd tonight, and thanks everyone as always. It's been great.
Hey, aloha tribe. Really appreciate you. Get some sleep because we're going to be having another great weekend.